Hello, today we're going to talk about multiculturalism and why it is failing. But to understand why it is failing, we need to understand what culture is. So what is culture? Culture is a very broad term, but in general it means your way of life, your set of morals, your molding of ideological beliefs and faith. So to then understand what multiculturalism is the pre-existing culture, the pre-existing nation, the natives, so to speak. They decide to take in lots of immigrants and rather than assimilating them, allowing them to integrate into the society and become part of that culture, to merge into the nation itself. Then you would allow them to maintain their culture, values and ideological beliefs, and you, as the majority, would have to adapt to them rather than adapting to you. So it is reversed roles rather than the normal classical one. And the reason why this is a complete failure is that people don't understand the conflict that arises when two cultures clash. Because culture, like I said, is a set of way of life, your moral beliefs, your faith, your everything, your very ideological foundation of how a society should work. So every little small detail are gonna be affected. I don't like when grown men are gonna have sexual relations with young girls, which is referred to as pedophilia. But in some other cultures, it's completely accepted. But of course, these people, they don't match with our people. But of course, it's gonna be illegal for them at first, but eventually, because we want to be multicultural, we have to embrace their set of beliefs. We have to take it upon us to adapt these into our laws. So we have to make marriage to children legal. But we do it so that, for example, Muslims who want to marry children, we allow Muslims to do this to one another in our country. So what this makes is double standards. It sets up that a Swedish person can do the same things as a Muslim would. And another example of why multiculturalism is failing is in Canada. There is a man who's from Nigeria who moved to Canada for 20 years ago, I think it was, and he has adapted and assimilated very well into Canadian lifestyle, and he's a Christian man of faith. He's a tenant renting out apartments. So I think it was that when he was going to show the apartment for new people moving in, he had a Muslim couple living there, and when he was going in there to show the apartment, he was walking with shoes. And because he had shoes and walked into the room where they made prayers, he was forced to pay a fine of $12,000. $12,000 for walking in there with shoes, because it's against the Sharia code. And believe it or not, this Sharia law is implemented in our countries in a very small fraction of the full extent. Because if it was the full extent, then we would cut other hands of robbers, we would execute people, and that's fully against our set of values and beliefs. We normally don't believe on executing prisoners and torturing people this way and dismembering. We believe in rehabilitation, while these kinds of people believe in aggressive behavior and fights, while we want peace and prosperity, regardless of who you are. But these people want to force it upon others to become like them, to become Islamized, etc. And in the court hearings, when he was forced to pay these $12,000 for walking in with shoe into this prayer room, then he was asking for, I need some time to mourn my son's death because his son had recently died. But both the humanitarian rights activist, because he was accused of racism and hatred towards these Muslims' rights and religion, etc., he was refused, both from the human rights and the Muslims. Speak about humanitarian rights, right? He can't even mourn his son before they're gonna pressure him with these ridiculous Sharia claims. They're soulless people. That's what they are. Weak and backlash people. And you may ask also, hey, you seem quite against Islam. Yes, I am. because they have nothing to do here in Europe and they should get out of here. Because if they don't want to accept our set of beliefs and not want to assimilate into our country, then they can go somewhere else or stay back in their home country. We don't need them. We have lived in peace and prosperity for a long time without them. Thank you. It may sound very anti-Islamic, but it's quite a perfect example because it's really an ideology, a culture that's opposite to our own. And following up this multiculturalism, you will end up with ghettos. You will have people just assimilating into towns rather than trying to move across the entire land itself. They will try to aim towards certain cities where they will know this is a good city to live in. Here's lots of other migrants from Asia, like let's say Chinatown. Then you will have another town full of Irans, and then you will have another town with Christian Orthodox Syrians, and you will have another town full of Iraqi Muslims, etc. These ghettos will just cause a divide amongst the people and create no-go zones where you can't walk because the police won't even bother doing anything because the people there lives in a complete different reality where they are gonna follow the Sharia code. And if you're a Swede walking in there, or any tourist for that matter, you will get attacked because you're not following their code, and they will think that you're a whore and deserves to be attacked. And this is the thing. The double standards have been set. They can do all of these crazy things, and whenever a Swede would do anything, it would be in the front page of the paper. But their crimes would be covered up. And their faces, their names, it would be censored. And it has been admitted and proven by police and WikiLeaks that the Swedish police and government have covered up immigrant crime statistics in the country. It is to paint a different narrative from what is the reality. To make Swedish people think that it is Swedish people attacking people, not the immigrants. So therefore, the socialists will grow in power as they take in more and more people, and they're gonna be claiming that they're the ultimate people for these new immigrants. While they're gonna grow in numbers, we as the old majority will decline. And it is very true. We have less children than them, and we're taking hundreds of thousands of them, and people who even get deported from the country, they still remain, and the police don't have even resources to go and hunt them down, to get them out of here. It's chaos, and people are starting to grow hatreds to one another. This fascism that people wanted to bury after the Second World War, it is coming back. People are starting to be very aggressive towards immigrants because the very fact that they are trying to kill us, and they are publicly announcing it. And people are sick and tired of listening to politicals telling you to be tolerant while they mean that you should accept these facts that people are coming here and wanted to kill you, and you're not supposed to do anything about it. And if you speak out against this, you're a hate preacher like me. Right now, I'm not telling the truth according to them. I'm just a hate preacher. But this is very true, and what I'm just saying is a very small fraction of all of these things. Just search Sharia law and all of these cultural things. You don't even have to be a Muslim. In general, Arabic people and people from third world countries are treating women very badly. They have very different set of moral and belief. Their culture is different. It's just simple. A different culture means that it will be a clash of set of beliefs. And for you to just accept people from every part of the world won't work. They have to want to assimilate into your country. But if they don't want to, you will be breeding troubles of civil war and blood and despair in the future, like the Indians did after the divorce from the British colonies. The Muslims and the Indian people slaughtered each other. It was deaths of hundreds and thousands, and they had to cut their borders. This is a very true fact. And these people throw trash about anywhere. They want to be treated like sultans. Believe me, I worked very hard. I mean, here's some gloves I just used for a short while before I quit the job. They're completely, as you can see, full of dirt and shit because they throw literally everything. From refrigerators to entire furnitures. And they don't care about that someone else will have to go and pick it up. They don't care about their own responsibility. They want to make it convenient for themselves and live like sultans. So they are punishing those that works with community service. But the thing is that we as a country, we need to make them assimilate into our country. It might sound like an empire, but the truth is, the communism did the same thing. They were promoting minorities, they were fighting this class struggle and trying to break down the great empire. Yeah, but look at Soviet Union. Wasn't they a great empire? Yes, they were. And look how many that got starved to death and they committed cultural suicide. They're just killing the old people that have the old set of beliefs, like in China, like in Cambodia, like in anywhere communism has been founded. They try to kill off the old way of life, and the minorities, their bonuses, their rights, whatever, they're going into the trash bin. The only new culture and art is gonna be for the new socialistic party. And that's what's going on here in Europe and the Western, entire Western world, for that matter, America. It's that socialism is growing. It's growing at a rapid pace. And we are just surrendering our old traditional rights and values for this multiculturalism that doesn't work. And the Socialist Party, the moderates, the centrists, whatever they want to call themselves, they are growing in power. The globalists, the globalization is being forced upon us. We can't preserve even our race. It is unethical to want to preserve your race. I want Sweden to be Sweden. I want Sweden to be the place for Swedish people in the world. And we're not a big population. I mean, if you think about it, we're 10 million with a huge amount of immigrants. Of those 10 millions, it's not Swedish people growing in Sweden, it's immigrants, because we're not mating as much as them. And we're taking in them in the thousands every year. And for each immigration crisis, we're gonna take in even more than regularly. And people are fleeing their hometowns because the towns they're living in is being unrecognizable. And people like me who are poor, we can't move away, we can't be with our kin. Every restaurant, every place you can hang in my hometown, it's owned by Arabs, and Arabs hangs there. So I'm being excluded from society rather than being living with my kin. And I'm a tribalist, I'm a nationalist. I want to live with my people. It's that simple, but I'm not giving that option. I don't have that opportunity to do so anymore. So instead I live like a lone wolf, like an outsider, an outcast in my own society. And with this fact, you only can worry about the future for your fellow countrymen in the rest of the country. Because we're giving away our country that our forefathers built. The people who worked over 12 hours a day to build up this country, that sacrificed their lives to make a future for us. Those who fought bravely, just sacrificed their lives for nothing. Those people who worked themselves to death, worked their asses off for nothing. Because we, the children of our forefathers, are giving away it to foreigners. We are not accepting that we are a people. We are self-hating. Such a self-hatred for our own culture in order to just be welcoming to these people. You see, the thing is that we nationalists, we tribalists, we don't hate other people. I admire other cultures, yes, I do. I think it's inspiring to see that people have different set of beliefs. But I don't think it mixes well to take in different cultures into one culture, because it will cause conflict, like I said. And it has been proven over and over in history. But we don't learn from history. We are constantly repeating old bad patterns until someone will ultimately win. And I mean, culture should be shared, not through taking people into a country, like taking 1 million from Africa into Sweden, taking 1 million from Asia into Sweden, taking 1 million Native Americans into Sweden, taking 1 million blah 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 into Sweden, take 1 million aliens into Sweden. Like, what the hell? Where's the Swedish people then? How is it multiculturalism? No, it's cultural destruction. That's what it is. It's cultural suicide. First and foremost for the natives, because they're gonna suffer, because they have to adapt the laws that allows pedophiles to flourish in their societies. They will allow violent creeps that are fascists themselves, that will attack you and tell you, yeah, you can't do anything in Sweden because you're Swede. Like, what the fuck? You're just losing your rights as a native. And eventually the minorities that comes here will be conquered by other minorities until there will be some kind of major shift. And obviously the major shift will become communism and globalism, which is far worse than communism. With the technocracy, everything would end. Culture would die itself. Like I said before, only the culture of the party would prevail. But culture should be shared through festivals like Eurovision Song Contest, through music, art and food, tourism. People go into different cultures to embrace the different culture. And whenever you see a tourist in your own country, be friendly towards them, encourage them to visit something. Like, that's how you share culture. Otherwise, if you're forcing people into one culture, it's cultural suicide and the culture will just die out in time. That's the true imperialism. So as you can probably understand if you at least try to believe what I say, because I know that some people are gonna say, oh, you're racist, you don't do anything good in your life, you just are an evil person, you need to die, you fucking fascist. Because that's literally what some people are gonna say, regardless of what I say. And you can literally see a guy holding a sign, allow free speech to be heard, or something like that, and then you're gonna have a woman next to him with a sign that's gonna say, fuck fascism, they are evil. It's like ridiculous. And yes, I would like to keep the image that Sweden is a country full of blonde people. Why not preserve race? It's not like blonde people are in the majority of the world. If you go to Africa, how many blonde people are there? If you go to East Asia, how many blonde people are there? Yes, I would as well like to keep ethnicity in check. Because if you mess up Mother Nature once, you most likely won't be able to recover it. Once in Egypt you had forest, flourishing jungles, and now it's all desert. Desert. You have to maintain Mother Nature. I'm a very strong nature supporter, but that's the thing with globalization. Nature becomes not a priority. They speak of global warming and all these kinds of things, but they don't really do anything in reality to help them other than impoverish people. It's an economical trick most of the time. But believe me, there's some people in the world that really cares about nature, that really does good work. But the politicians mostly are just talking bullshit. Like removing nuclear power plants. Nuclear power plants are a strong and effective way to maintain nature. So be mindful of that. And what this multi-ethnicity in a multicultural does is that even if you have one culture and multi-ethnicity, you will cause identity politics to take place. People will still push for these agendas, they will still push for these things. It's just never gonna work with multi-ethnicity and multicultural. Because if you don't learn from the lessons of the past, then you're condemned to repeat it. Hopefully we have come to some understanding in this video of why multiculturalism isn't a good thing. I hope you enjoyed this report, and this is me signing out. Oh, yes. That was really stark. So stark. Yeah.